Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Technical Steering Committee of the Linux Foundation Energy Project EVerest. We have, again, a really packed month behind us, and I want to update you on all of this. But before we start, the usual antitrust policy notice. There could be competition in the room, so let's skip that and make sure, please behave. And yeah, so what is the agenda for today? As always, and you can skip all of this preset if you're watching the recording. There was a table of content below this video, so just skip to the sections which are interesting you. So we'll quickly recap what's EVerest, then we go over what's new, and there's also some new partners joining us. Then what's next, and in the end, we can also have some discussion which won't be on the video recording. So what's EVerest? Just to give you a quick recap. We are part of the Linux Foundation Energy, which is a big consortium within the Linux Foundation of projects related to the renewable energy transition. We are the software interface between the energy world and the electric car world, so the firmware running on chargers. Why are we doing this? Because there's so many companies and corporations and people who want to earn money with charging business that it's a super fragmented and complex industry, and we have a lot of island solution and nothing really works together as it should, and we're ending up with a pure customer experience, and that's not what we want. So by collaboration along all those players, we can get something better out of this. That's why we created EVerest. EVerest is a firmware within the charger controller or within the charger itself. Highly flexible, highly modularized, so you can build out of that whatever you want. It has a lot of modules for different communication protocols, for connecting to batteries, other chargers, local other consumption like heating, to the cars, cloud, humans, cloud energy forecast, and current prices, and basically getting remote controlled by the grid. All of that with all the different protocols is EVerest, but also the state machine in between to orchestrate all of that. And we want to get always better, so the list of standards here is extended over time. We're always happy for someone new bringing in more technology to the ecosystem. And yeah, we're not creating new standard here. I think that's important to know, because in our opinion, standard is just a big PDF document. And if you have yet another standard for communication, things will get worse, and you have more standards in the end. So we want to be the default implementation of all of those standards, but not yet another PDF document. If you want to get started with EVerest, there's a couple of solutions out there. For example, from Pionix, there's a reference design for an AC charger. There will also be a DC charger soon. I think meanwhile, you can already start buying the first reference chargers from ChargeByte and their customers, and there's way more to come along the road. As I said, there's multiplayer here in the game already, and Phytech, Texas Instruments, ChargeByte, Pionix, Lumicil, and if you want to join us, just give us a ping, and we have already a couple of further ones which will be added here soon. Because we want to really cover the entire ecosystem. So I'm from Pionix. We started the project EVerest, but meanwhile, there's a lot of more people in here. Already mentioned that there will be a couple of presenters from different organizations today. There's a lot of universities we're collaborating with, a lot of charger manufacturers, and if you want to help us, just give us a ping. So what's new? Let me hand you over to Pete about what we have done on Pionix side.
Yeah, thanks, Marco. Hello, everyone. Also from my side, we start with plug and charge testing at Hubject in Berlin. It was really exciting to actually test the plug and charge functionality that we developed during the last months and weeks with real cars, because it's not that easy to do it. But we did that together with Hubject and ChargeByte and the big car manufacturer, and also some other charging station manufacturers have been there. And we tested against 4 or 5 vehicles. And it was a pretty successful test. So we could test the whole chain from the electric vehicle over the EVSE to the backend system, to the Hubject platform and back. For certificate installation and also for the authorized request, yeah, had a good time in Berlin, and yeah, was really great to test plug and charge with EVerest actually for the first time with real electric vehicles, and we will move forward with Hubject to get a certification for EVerest for being plug and charge compatible, so that we will in the future will also be able to test against real vehicles with the certificates that we will get in the future. The news on the OCPP side is that we have merged a basic implementation of OCPP 2.0.1. We have started with this at the beginning of the year, and now we are ready with the first functional blocks that we have implemented and the first use cases. And there's a small part in the specification which specifies some functional blocks and use cases that can be considered a minimal or a basic implementation of OCPP 2. And we thought that it's a good idea to do that first, and we are finished with that. And of course, during the testing event at Berlin with Hubject for testing plug and charge, we also found some minor things to improve, and that are also within this release, this May release that we have. Next slide. The news on ISO 15118 are also that we have moved forward, of course, also with plug and charge and the simulation for that, because plug and charge, of course, does not only touch OSPP, but also our ISO 15118 stack. So we made some changes to the V2G stack. I think we will come to that in a little bit more detail on the next slide. But also the Joseph stack changed a little bit to handle plug and charge properly. We moved from to FC-V2G as the standard ISO stack in all the configuration files, and also started to change the high-level communication for the car simulator from RISE V2G to Joseph, and we will continue to develop the software in the loop there for the ISO 15118-20. Moritz, should I say something about FC-V2G, or do you want to explain that?
Well, feel free. You know the content as well. Sure.
Okay, so I think that was mentioned. The first point was mentioned on the last slide, that we are using now the FC-V2G module in all the configurations that we have. At the Hubject test event, we tested with both stacks, and both went fine. So I think ChartSpite only tested the FC-V2G stack, and we from the Pionic side tested with the FC-V2G and the Joseph stack, but we consider the FC-V2G much more stable and faster, so we switched to this stack in every configuration. Of course, there has been also, previous to the event, been some updates regarding plug and charge and some bug fixes regarding the TLS handshake. And yeah, that's basically it about this module.
Right. I'll continue with the code generator for the V2G EXICodec. The continuing work has we're now able to create encoders and decoders for ISO-20 code, and we can actually already successfully decode quite a lot of messages, but only those that we actually have available. We're still missing reference streams. We're creating our own using Joseph right now, but that's sort of not a good reference for us. We need more real world experience. So ACDP isn't, the code does not yet compile. There's some structural issue with some of the schema structures there. We have a grammar issue decoding one of these named reference streams. We're investigating that right now. We're not quite sure what's different in the structure there leading to this error, but we'll get rid of that as well. Then, as already mentioned some weeks ago, we still have known issues for the more complex plug and charge data types, and there's a corner case in some of the standard list data types. If you have use the full lists, we're well aware of that. We have work in progress to fix that. We'll mention the work in progress later. And the current state of the cbV2G, the resulting library has already been integrated into the first ChargeByte product. That's the Charge Module S. As soon as we declare our code stable and well, bug-free in terms of EIM, AC and DC decoding, this will be the next release, which will be delivered to customers. They were also testing this stack with a commercial tester, with a Commenso tester, and apart from the mentioned issue above, the corner case, that was all successful. So we're almost ready to integrate it into or deliver it with our products. And on the next page, I'll present what's the current work in progress. So as mentioned before, some grammar issues, both for -20 and plug and charge. We're working on configurations to reduce size in certain scenarios, mostly, of course, for the embedded world, to strip the code, which is not at all required for certain platforms. And we'll also now go towards releasing the created code as a separate library, so you don't have to go through the stages of using the codec generator, but you can use the actual library for that. Okay.
Okay. There has been a lot of stuff going on regarding the framework and especially touching the testing within EVerest. So we have some new features in the framework relating to the EVerest testability. There is a status notification socket that can now be used to notify modules that are interested or processes that are interested. It can publish its status to its environment. So for testing, this is especially needed because in the past we were basically looking at the log trace in order to see when EVerest is actually ready for charging, which takes about, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds when you start up the program. Right now we have an automated signal where we can listen to in order to then know EVerest is ready to start actual test cases and we can start simulations. Then we removed a singleton instance, so one process can now spawn multiple connections or module instances. And there's also some refactoring going on regarding EVerest Pi, which I think will also be presented on the next slide. Yeah, so this is basically the continuation from the previous slide, where some changes to EVerest Pi are presented. In the future, it will be possible to mock out modules pretty easily, which will be very useful for testing. Right now, for testing, we still have a separate module, which we call a Pi test control module, that we use within our test cases within EVerest Core. Probably we will be able to get rid of that in order to use the extensions that we have in the framework and within EVerest Pi to easily mock out modules in our test cases. And we were also moving forward regarding our CI/CD integration. There's a new repository for it, for sharing common tools. For the CI/CD, for example, you can, there are some tools to actually build Docker images that you can use within the test case and within the pipelines. This is then used within the GitHub actions of EVerest Core that you should now be able to see in the repository. So we are now able to trigger testing actions manually. And we will automate that probably every pull request that we can run those build and test infrastructure that we are currently building. So also there we're moving forward. Yeah, and because we had the changes in the framework, we of course also changed the testing framework within the EVerest utils repository and simplified that a little bit. Due to the new features in EVerest Framework. And I think I mentioned everything on the last slides that's relevant for this. There has been some probably minor changes to EVerest Core, where we switched to a new state machine implementation, the libfsm in version 0.2, and we refactored the Slack module and also the libslack library, which was done in parallel, and also the adaptation of the PyJoseph to the new EVerest Pi module has been done. And this is a very short slide for an actual very big release. You know that we skipped the last release of April in order to get some things done, because there were too many open things that we said we need another a little bit more time. I think we first decided that it will be a release a little bit after the last TSC, so within 1 or 2 weeks. But then we decided we will just skip the April release and put everything into the May release, which is now happened. And I think I covered a lot of, and also Moritz covered a lot of things that have happened and that are within this new May release, which was just published today.
And I think you can also re-watch the TSC from last time. We have now a tremendous large list of cars we tested against with, and I think all this compatibility and stability improvements, I think that's also a really, really big piece of this. Yeah, thank you, Pete. And then I would now like to hand over to Ian and announce that we basically now have a new collaboration partner within the EVerest Linux Installation Energy collaboration, and that's the Trusted Computing Group. And I think it's best that you're presenting yourself and telling who you are, what you're doing, and why you want to join EVerest.
Yeah, can you hear me, Marco? Yeah. Okay, thank you for the invitation today. So it's great news. So the Trusted Computing Group, I'm the co-chair of the Vehicle Services Group within Trusted Computing, and we're partnering with Linux Foundation EVerest, where we're looking to analyze the EV charging ecosystem and identify where we can use Trusted Computing Group to develop novel solutions to help secure the industry. So just moving on, I'm going to give a little bit of background on the next slide. Sorry, yeah. Introduction and membership, and then I'm going to give it on Trusted Computing Group. And then I'll specifically talk about the Vehicle Services Workgroup, which I lead. And then we have an upcoming Trusted Computing Group members meeting, which I would like to extend an invitation to for appropriate guests if they're interested. Okay, the next slide. So Trusted Computing Group, we're an international not-for-profit organization. We're focused on developing global industry standards for interoperable trusted computing platforms. And we publish technical specifications which are publicly available and widely used in the market. And you may be familiar with TPM, which is an ISO standard 1189. And we're organized into work groups. So a really good model where we have experts from many different technology areas to help develop specifications and guidelines. And that really helps for a really good neutral environment where everybody can collaborate and work together towards developing solutions and standards and specifications. The next slide, please. Oh, yeah. So we support a global and inclusive approach. So we have both commercial and non-for-profit organizations. If you're interested in being a member, we do have a contact, Stephanie Schultz, who is our executive director, at the end of this talk. And we do have industry liaisons and invited experts as well for transparency and peer reviews. So we're very well connected around the industry and open to new members. So you can please reach out at the end of this presentation once you see the contact if you're interested. So here's a list of some of the TCG members. Like I said, I'm from Toyota, so we're a member of TCG. So we have commercial, we have liaisons, we have invited experts, and we have government participants as well. So we have a lot of members in the Trusted Computing Group, which spans many working groups, which I'll now discuss. So just briefly before I do that, we just highlight one slide here for open source. So we have quite a few open source implementations out there, which will be very interesting, I think, for Linux Foundation EVerest, is the TPM stack as well, right? So there is an open source version of that stack available. So just want to make that aware to everybody. There's quite a few open source implementations that you can review here. So if we talk about the work groups, so you can see here we have many work groups. We range from technical and solutions work groups. I'm in the vehicle services work group, and we're a technical work group, which means we can produce specifications and guidelines, etc. There are many other work groups, such as the Trusted Platform work group. There's a DICE, CIRES, which is cyber resilience, and there's MARS and IoT. So we have multiple different types of work groups, which can really help understand and deliver solutions for different problems using trusted computing. So the Trusted Computing Group Vehicle Services, so I'm the co-chair, and Dr. Aguma-san, who's from Japan, he is the chair of the Vehicle Services Work Group. And together we lead this group, and we have many participants. So we have multiple OEMs, ourselves and Mercedes-Benz. And then we have tier 1 suppliers and research institutes, government bodies, and other liaisons. And we're continuously inviting new members. So please do reach out if you're interested in adopting and refining TCG technologies for vehicles. So you can find some more information on the link here on the Vehicle Services webpage. So you can see here on the bottom, we have the Vehicle Services platform. So you can see here, this is the typical platform stack within a vehicle, connecting right through to the back end. So we have that divided up into different areas of functionality and capability. So we can focus as a working group. And we're primarily focused on the adoption and refinement of TCG technologies that provide trustworthy platform primitives, including roots of trust in vehicle architectures. And you can see on the right-hand side here some of our objectives, like evaluating and the adoption of TCG technologies. So looking at what the problems out there to start with. So for example, in the EV charge industry, what are the challenges end-to-end within the ecosystem? And then when we understand those challenges, what would be the best suited TCG technology to try and solve some of those problems? So I think it's always good to start with the problem, understand the problem clearly. That usually leads to a simple solution. So where are we focused right now? So our current focus is EV charging, and obviously partnering with Linux Foundation EVerest. One of the things we found, we're not experts in EV charging. I mean, we have a background on the vehicle side, but we need somebody like Linux Foundation EVerest who are experts in the industry and obviously have that broad reach and connectivity with different stakeholders, which will really help understand the end-to-end ecosystem problems. And then working together, we can try and deliver a novel solution using TCG technology. So the ultimate goal is to create an end-to-end security reference architecture for the EV charge ecosystem. And I think what's really important to point out here is that the vehicle must be resilient under attack from a connected and potentially compromised EVSE, so that malware cannot propagate from the EVSE to the vehicle or from the vehicle back into the grid. So I think it's very important on both sides that we have resiliency baked in there. And then looking towards the future then as well, more on the vehicle services platform side, electric vehicles and software-defined vehicles, and electrical electronic architectures, or EE as it's commonly used in the automotive industry. They're now kind of migrating to a high-performance computer HPC type ECUs, which are electronic control units within the vehicle. And they present OEMs with challenges to ensure they are secure by design and resilience. We're now starting to see server-like type capability being moved into vehicles with the high requirements for data transfer, etc., within the vehicle itself. And TCG Vehicle Services is uniquely positioned with a range of technical and solutions work groups, which I highlighted earlier, to innovate secure by design and resilient solutions for automotive industry problems using trusted computing technology. So that's our short and a kind of longer term focus where we're at right now. So what I'd like to just highlight here, and thank you, Mark, for the opportunity as well, is the Vehicle Services invitation to our members meeting. This is not open to everybody, it's by invitation. It's on the 26th of June in Berlin. I understand, Mark, I think Linux Foundation EVerest will be attending. So we're having a Birds of the Feather panel discussion and some demos from TCG also. Really the objective here is to have discussions, open and frank discussions about some of the challenges, and then how can we potentially solve some of those challenges. So we really want to collaborate on automotive industry problems and then propose novel trusted computing solutions to ensure a secure, trustworthy foundation for the EE architectures in a vehicle. It all starts with hardware, right? And you have to have the right hardware. You cannot retrofit afterwards. So it's so important to get that EE architecture correct, and understanding the problems allows you to find the right requirements up front. And then who are we inviting? So OEMs ideally, but also automotive industry security experts. So experts on electric vehicle charging, whether they're directly OEMs or not, they would be also very welcome. So if you are interested, I would advise please reach out to Stephanie Schultz. Stephanie's contact is below, and Stephanie is an executive director with TCG.
Yeah, so thank you for your presentation. That sounds really amazing, and also thanks a lot for joining us. And I think what you also pointed out, like, yeah, we have a lot of security issues within the charging industry. I think, let's put it this way, a lot of the standards we have are not perfectly designed. And in the beginning, I mentioned that EVerest don't want to make new standards. So we want to work with everyone to build standards, to implement basically new versions of what's ever out there. And we want to be the playground for those new versions. So we're working with Sharon, we're working with Open Charge Alliance, and in the future also with way more, to really be in the forefront of those standards. And also with now TCG in the room, I think we can make this a really, really dream collaboration that also security is thought in from the beginning. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Marco. Yes, I think it's a great opportunity, because I think, as you've highlighted numerous times, the fragmentation, right? And there's different stakeholders within the ecosystem, and that kind of lack of end-to-end ownership. So I think that's really, really important to understand. And yeah, really looking forward to and excited to working with you and the team.
Thanks a lot. So then let's go quickly over the last slides. So what's next coming in Pionix what's next coming in EVerest, and from ChargeByte, Trusted Computing Group, and whoever is in here. So what we're currently working on is OCPP, getting 2.0 entirely done. I think the basis we just saw got released today, and we're planning to get the full stack done by, I think, end of the year. And there's also new partners lining up to support on this, which we can't announce at that moment. We work on the XC parser, C++, you heard that today. We're working on the -20 state machines and all the protocols, you heard that today. Later on, we have a huge bucket list of things you still want to do. I think energy management, I think we highlighted that quite sometimes, that we have a good already working load balancing. There's still some architectural things to do to run this on multiple machines, but that's rather minor. But the entire architecture is really made for huge forecasting able, really, really smart energy management architecture, and we want to make that reality quite soon. We want to work on all the Asian car to charge point communication protocols, CharDemo, GPT, CharGene. Mentioned energy management, I mentioned remote connections to also do inter-EVerest charger communication, so like load balancing, this would be a requirement. EE-bus, IEEE 2030.5, OpenADR, USEF, OCPP server client connection, so basically we can build something like a charger in the middle if one charger should control others, for example, for energy management purposes. Yeah, and for sure, we're working with a lot of hardware vendors to adding drivers for all kind of components to EVerest. So also there's a quite long list of things we're already working on. If you think that might be interesting for your product and you want to make that off-the-shelf compatible with a really, really great open source ecosystem, just give us a ping. I think we can work something out and welcome you as another partner to this ecosystem. And yeah, we will be at a lot of events later this year, so you can also meet us there. Already removed the first couple of ones, which already passed this year. Still, for another half an hour, we're on the eWorld in Essen. We are going to the LF Energy Summit. I think you can still get the early bird discount for listening there to our talks. I think the talks are now all slotted in. I think we're not accepting further speakers, but at least participants. You can also join that virtually. We are working on the Power to Drive, on the MOVE conference, Embedded Open Source Summit. We'll have a talk. We're looking about Chaos Communication Camp this summer to do some more hacker-style work on charging and electric vehicles, like we did last year in the Netherlands. We'll be on the ICNC, the Drop conference, which is, I think, one of the leading climate tech conferences. Then there will be a lot of further OCPP festivals and a lot of further Charon festivals not only Europe, but actually all over the world, and we will join quite a couple of them. Yeah, and next technical steering committee will be 22nd of June. Again, same time, 5 p.m. CET. And we also have a weekly tech call. Oh, the slide is wrong. Actually, we shifted that time so to make it more compatible with our folks from North America. And it's still every Tuesday, but now it's starting at 3 p.m. European time zone, so Central European time, to make it more US friendly. And if you want to get updates on all we're doing and updates on this recording, on the slides, if you want to ask tech questions, just register to our mailing lists. We're updating that quite a bit, and there's a lot of technical discussion going on there, so please don't be annoyed if you don't want to follow every technical detail, but you could. And yeah, looking forward to talk to you soon. And now let's open the discussion. I will stop the recording and let's see where this is going. And for the YouTube folks, see you next month.